G'day church family, it's Pastor Dan here, and to visitors, welcome to our devotional channel here at Rockhampton Baptist. Now I've been continuing through the book of Malachi, and last week we skipped into Genesis to look at the idea of covenants to help us to step into this next part of Malachi. And so today we're actually going to look at the covenant, and it's actually called the covenant of Levi. You'll find it in Numbers 25, and we'll jump there today as well to have a look at it. So we finished a couple of weeks ago on chapter 2, verses 2. And so I want to skip to verse 5, and we'll come back to the other ones next week. And just to see what God says about this covenant in Malachi. So it says in chapter 2, verse 5, it says, "My covenant with him was one of life and peace, and I gave them to him. It was a covenant of fear, and he feared me. He stood in awe of my name." So I want to jump to Numbers chapter 25 from verses 10. It says, "And the Lord said to Moses, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, has turned my anger away from the Israelites, since he was as zealous for my honor among them as I am. I did not put an end to them in my zeal. Therefore, tell him, I am making my covenant of peace with him. He and his descendants will have a covenant of a lasting priesthood, because he was zealous for the honor of his God and made atonement for the Israelites." And so here we have a covenant. This covenant is called the covenant of Levi, or the priestly covenant. It's one that's made here in Numbers 25. But it's not disconnected to the Mosaic covenant, which was the covenant of the law, but it's also not exactly the same covenant. Here we have a covenant that God makes. It's actually an unconditional covenant, unlike the Mosaic covenant. It's one that God says, because of what you've done, I am going to make a covenant through your priestly line, the line of Levi, that I will maintain your priestly line. It actually doesn't matter what the priest did. His promise was to maintain that. And it's actually a level of messianic covenant within this sort of thing that covenant would be fulfilled in the Messiah. And we'll see Malachi steps into that in the coming weeks. But the covenant here with the priesthood, and here we find in this section that the Lord is in fact rebuking the priesthood, and we'll talk about that next week. But here is the covenant that God made with Levi, or with the Levites, the actual tribe of Levi, based upon what this guy Phinehas, who was the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, a priest at that time. Because his zealousness, because he actually allowed God and pleaded with God, allowed God to turn his anger away from the Israelites in order to give them a reward. God made this everlasting covenant with him. And so in this space, God is reminding the Israelites, God is reminding the Levites in this space that I have made this covenant with you. And his covenant was one of life and peace. He gave it to him and it was a covenant of fear. Now I'm not talking fear of being afraid, but it was because of reverence and awe. This covenant was because the Levites as a tribe recognized who God was and what he is, actually understood and was able to stand in reverence and awe. And this is why God made this covenant with them. And so today, as you think about this, I want you to picture God in who he is. God makes these promises, God makes these everlasting covenants with us when we actually recognize who God is. And the Levites did that. They recognized. There's times when they forgot, but God draws them back into relationship with him and goes, recognize who I am. Remember who I am. We fear God. In other words, we sit in reverence because of the power and the might of the God we follow. So today I encourage you to sit and just recognize who God is. Sit in a sense of reverence to the great God in which we follow and in which we can come to know in relationship. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you. I thank you for who you are, that we can sit today in your greatness. Sit today in your mighty power, or the authority that you have. Lord, allow us to recognize in our lives what you have for us. Lord, recognize who you are in this space and the greatness of who you are. Lord, allow us this space this week in order to understand this. Amen. Keep looking for God. Keep reading his Bible. Trying to understand. Sometimes you may need to jump back and forth between a few verses to actually capture what God is speaking to you in that section. But I encourage you to keep pushing into his word and keep looking for opportunities to bless others as well. God has blessed us, and so we're called to also bless others as well. So we'll see you soon.